So I was watching this runner's race the other day. It was sunny at first, but then it started raining. The athletes didn't stop though. When they finished the race, a news reporter came in to question the winners. The guy who took 4th place said, I came 4th place because the weather was bad today, also my feet got cold and it was raining hard. And this is an example of a reactive person, one who's constantly focused on the things that he has no control over. On the other hand, the guy who took the golden medal wasn't complaining at all. He said that bad weather didn't affect his performance. He wasn't focused on why did Mother Nature chose to go against him at this very important day, because he's conscious that he has no control over the external. Only his reactions and thoughts can bend his will. And if any negative thought comes on the radar, he's going to reframe it quickly. So habit number 1, be proactive. Realize that you're unable to control external circumstances. You have control only over your reactions and interpretations to these events. I want you to imagine that you have a disease, an incurable disease. You have very little time left for you on this planet. At that moment, you will undoubtedly be confronted with a powerful question. What did I do with my life? Well, to be honest, you already have a disease that's going to kill you. You're going to die. Death is an inherent disease in all of us. I'm not saying this like, oh guys, we're all gonna die, let's cry and feel victims about it. No, I'm saying choose what to leave out wisely. Do you want to be remembered as someone who was a great role model, an inspiration, like someone who wrote a book that inspired others to come up with valuable ideas, products? Or are you willing to be remembered as the guy who spent 30 years of his life trolling people on the internet and making them feel horrible about themselves? So habit number 2, begin with the end in mind. Value your time, because once it's all spent, there is no coming back. Now consider this scenario. You're having coffee with some friends and then you apologize because you have to leave and get back home work on your project. But let's be honest, here's what working on your project really means. You're gonna go home and open up Facebook, spend 2 hours in, and then you're gonna feel bad about it and go watch some self-development video on how to manage your time better. And finally, 1 hour before going to bed, you'll start working on that project. Apparently this is what most people do. So habit number 3, put first things first. Stop focusing on meaningless activities and do the most important things first. That will surely bring great success upon your life. I remember the time when I was 6 years old or so. I was walking down with a friend in this place called Souk, where I could buy toys and clothes for very cheap prices. I remember back then we were standing at this toy stand and my friend said, look, there's a camera over there. So I look under the stand and I noticed a camera. It could have fallen from the other toys. We lived in a very poor neighborhood back then, where nobody could hardly afford these types of luxuries. My friend said, you know what, wait for the owner to look around and take it. I said, isn't that considered stealing? We should give it to the owner, right? He said, nah, don't worry about it. You have a plastic bag, right? I don't. Just put it in there and let's go. So I took the camera, and on our way home my friend suddenly stopped and said, hey, let me see the camera. Oh, it looks really cool, but I think it's broken. Yeah, you know what? My neighbor is a professional cameraman. I think he'll be able to fix it. Just leave it to me, okay? So I said okay, but it's our camera, right? I mean, you go fix it and keep it for like a week or so, and I'll use it for a week and give it back again. My friend replied, of course, we're like brothers. Apparently this was a manly agreement between both of us, and then we both gone our separate ways. I patiently awaited a phone call from him, but unfortunately the guy vanished completely. I never saw my friend since that day. Habit number 4, think win-win. Never sell a friend for a stolen camera. Now imagine that you have a kid named Robert. You guys work on a farm and live in the countryside. But Robert wants to travel, he wants to start working on his social skills. But it's impossible since there is only a few people living around in small farms. Robert came up to you one day apologizing that he's leaving soon because he felt impatient to follow his purpose and to go work on his social skills in the big city. In this case, most parents will say, no, you can't do that. You need to stay here and work on the farm like your grandfathers and your grandfathers did before you. Now, by doing that, here's what you want. You want Robert to transform into a box so you can move him around anywhere you want. And when you come back from somewhere, you want that box to stay where you've left it. It's easier to judge, impose your opinion, or wait for your turn to talk back, rather than listen, diagnose empathetically, and ask yourself, maybe that person is trying to pursue different goals in his path that I cannot resonate with. Maybe he sees reality differently. How can I compromise and come up with a win-win solution, satisfying both of us? This is the kind of thinking that will massively reduce conflicts in your interactions. If you respond without making the slightest effort to understand from where the other person is coming from, you're simply treating that person as a box. Habit number 5, seek first to understand and then to be understood. I want you to imagine two people. They are trying to take a sword out of a rock. They keep trying for hours and hours, but what they haven't thought of yet is to try and take the sword out by combining their efforts. This fusion is called synergy. The whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts, like combined mental, physical abilities, focus. You should always be looking for these synergistic opportunities with others, making the task easier for everyone. So habit number 6, synergize. Now, suppose we are both avid readers, both very passionate about self-development books. One day I offer you a book to read titled The Art of Breathing. Now, what do most people respond to this kind of recommendation? Whoa, dude, are you kidding? The art of what? I'm trying to read Eckhart Tolle here, don't joke around with that. And this is what it means to judge a book by its cover. Personally, when I see a book, I'm not perceiving it as a bunch of papers folded up together anymore. I say, here are some of the most insightful ideas this individual has struggled throughout his entire life to come up with. Wrote them down in this $8 book with editors for you to read it. I'm not saying you should read every book, but be willing to seek out new role models, new big ideas. Because no matter how much you think you know, there will always be that something that you don't know. Habit number 7 is about accepting the journey of endless growth. Sharpen the saw.